Hi, this is Keith from sound.fairbury.com. I'm down at Friesen Motor Service. We're going to talk to Ed Friesen and do a little reminiscing about the good old days of Fairbury, Nebraska.
When I was growing up, it seemed big to me. We moved back up to Fairbury from Kansas in 1956, and so everything looked big to me in 1956. And I was old as you think. I wasn't really 18 in 1956, but we moved up from Larned, Kansas. This area, the Jansen area especially, was Dad's hometown, and he met my mother while he was working down at the dairy at the state hospital in Larned, Kansas. And so after about 5 years we moved up here, and we've been here in the neighborhood basically ever since. I remember that when we moved here, first place we went to was an apartment at 909 C Street, which is still there, still being used, but it was just town living of a different sort. I didn't know anything but living in town to that point, so it wasn't really different, but there was a lot of things going on, a lot of kids in the neighborhood to play with, a lot of things to do for a kid, but you had to have some imagination. Really, as far as what was in town in 1956, as far as I know, the only store that was in town in 1956 was Brackle's, and that was on the way to Westward, where I went to kindergarten. But I remember that store, but we didn't really get out, or I didn't get out or around that much during that time. So really, any memories of town didn't really happen until probably in 57, 58. When I was a little bit older, paid a little bit more attention, and then it was always exciting to go to town.
Okay, so you went to high school here?
I did. Yeah, I went to high school here. We moved from Fairbury, actually moved from Fairbury to Jansen for a little bit. My grandpa, Jacob Friesen, ran a used machinery lot in Jansen, Nebraska, and we moved there to a house in Jansen, and at the time, Dad was working at the creamery down where Fairbury Feaster Foods is now, building along the tracks on the south side of what is now Bacon Road. He was working there in the creamery, and so I really ran around Jansen quite a bit as a kid. Ran around with Jeff Wheatcraft, who is, I don't know if you know Jeff. Jeff works with Disney in Florida, I believe. I talked to him a while back in the Walmart parking lot where all the meet to greet, and visit a little bit. I think that's where he's at. But we ran around Jansen for a bit, and I hung out with my grandpa Friesen, who had a used machinery lot. He'd buy machinery, fix it up, and resell it. Well, there was some farm ground came available during the time we were living there. Had a house on it, so we moved from Jansen to the farm, which is 2 miles west and 3/4 of a mile south of Jansen, or 3/4 of a mile north of 136. But that was a place we moved to. We moved there in 1957. And I still had a little time I spent with my grandpa Friesen, which is great. And then one day Dad discovered that I could reach the pedals of an H tractor. He caught me backing stuff around or helping hook up to things at Grandpa's machinery lot. So goofing off days are over for me. Being the oldest, hey, you know, I have an H you can drive. It has a plow behind it. And so really from about the time I was, well, maybe 9 years old, I was just pretty much on the farm helping as I could. And in those days, we didn't have a lot of time just to go to town for things. Generally we'd go, as I remember, we'd go on Thursday evenings, which is when the stores were open at that time. And that was a big thing, you know, what are we gonna get, you know, what are we gonna buy, if we get to have ice cream or something, you know. And but that was, growing up, you had to, one of my favorite things to do, I guess, there on the place, besides riding bike, which painfully I learned to ride when we were living on 909 C Street in Fairbury, on the sidewalk. I don't think the marks are still there, but some of the marks might still be on me, but we won't go there either. So, but it's just playing out in the dirt, building things and running tractors and farming out in the driveway and making sack swings out of gunny sacks and straw with a rope tied around it, tied to a branch, and great fun. My sister, who's a few years younger than me, and I'm not going to tell you how old she is because she might see this, she is younger than me, and my brother, who's also younger than me, we'd have great fun out there riding bikes and swings, and I was, of course, the ruler of the siblings, and I still am on some days. But we had a great time out there. You have to use your imagination to find things to do. We barely had a calculator, and the one that we had a lever on it, and buttons you had to push and pull levers and all sorts of stuff. We didn't have a lot of the things that we have right now, but it was a great time on a farm growing up. And you learn to have an imagination and be able to think things through, possibly see what works and what doesn't. But,
so let me ask you this. I know it's a long time span, but between then and now, what would you say the big change has been?
Between then and now, well, then I had hair. Oh, besides that, we think things might be difficult, and all sorts of things that we have that are easier. I remember in coming to town in the past, it was always difficult when it was in a spring thaw or something, or when it rained, because the roads are so terribly muddy. And by terribly muddy, I mean there were ruts in the middle of them. You put chains in your pickup and drive to town. That's how difficult it would be. But you know, as far as things that are easy to do, it's way easier now. The big difference is all the technology and things that we got. The instant communication. You know, we had the old party line phone and a lot of things like that. Now it's just instant communication around the world. It's not difficult to do. That's one of the big changes.
So you were saying before, we thought we had it bad before, but...
Yeah, we thought, if you think now, you think, well, boy, you know, I really work hard, or I really have all these things to do, or it just, you know, life is such hurry, and it is a hurry, to be sure, but life can be much easier. In fact, in many cases, it's really too easy. Now, if we want something, we can just pick up the phone and it shows up. We don't have to save for it necessarily. We don't have to work for it. We don't have to fix it. We don't have to. It's just, life is just easy, and my life is easy. Not anything like it was growing up. Then you had to work hard, and by work hard, I don't mean sit in a stiff chair. I mean work hard, and there's many people that remember that. I remember it vaguely, but we don't work as hard generally now as we used to, and I think that in a couple of ways, what it does is things are too easily acquired right now. We don't really appreciate some of the things that we have, and in some cases we think that people owe us things. Big changes in the technology and how easy things are now. Really.
So are we better off now?
I'm enjoying the ease. Are we better off? I think we could blend it better. I think we could use our technology and still work at some things. I'm not really giving a lesson to anyone else here. This is just my thoughts about things I could do. Everybody knows their own situation, but you know, we do have some really convenient things, and we allow that sometimes to take us out of the loop, out of the work loop, out of actually doing something physically.
Okay. Well, thanks, Ed.
Yep.
SoundOffFairbury.com